All right, guys, what's going on? We are back. We're here to do the recap for Big Brother All Stars episode 6. This is David. How you doing, David?
Doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm good. I'm doing all right. All right. The episode just ended. How'd you feel about the episode?
It's a very emotional episode, I guess, to sum it up in one word. A lot seemed like it was going to happen, but a lot didn't happen, as we're going to get into. But I feel like some seeds were planted in this episode that will definitely start to grow as the season progresses.
Yeah, I'm seeing a strong parallel between this All-Star season and the previous All-Star season. And I'll get into exactly what that is that I'm talking about. But yeah, so we'll go ahead. We'll start it off with the recap. We have Memphis as the HOH, and he has nominated Nicole A. and David. So we go into the episode. The first thing we see in the episode is Tyler approaching David about the noms. And you want to kind of go into that and what happened there?
Yeah, so basically he met him in the storage room, and Tyler's just kind of trying to keep his head up a bit. And this is kind of Tyler looking out for also his own game in this situation because he's not working with David. But, they do. I remember seeing on Instagram, at least, like Tyler would always be commenting on David's posts, like supporting him because, he was there for him when David obviously went home first last season. So they had a little bit of a relationship outside of the house. But regardless, he's just basically saying, like, I like David. I hope to keep him as a number and potentially work with him in the future. So his plan is to go out there and try and win the veto and, save him and pocket him as a potential number for his own game.
Right. And to me as well, Tyler looked legitimately upset, like mad with the way that he felt Memphis was talking to David, right? Like he looked upset.
That's what I was going to ask you too. Do you think, how did she feel about that? Do you feel like people are too sensitive in Big Brother now, or do you feel like Memphis was just a little rude? Like, how did you take that?
I mean, if I'm just looking at the edit of the show, I don't think it was out of bounds. I mean, David was he was the first person out on his season, and he's brought back for another chance. And we all agree, that he should have another chance in the game, right. But he's not an all-star. So if you're going to call the game all-stars, he's not one.
Exactly.
And Memphis, I mean, it may be rude to some people. He's just stating truth is all he's doing. This game is all mental warfare. Like anything goes. If you can't handle it, then do something about it. And David's going, as you see, he's going to try to win the veto and pull himself off. But just sitting there and crying and looking, I mean, if you do that as a gameplay where you get emotional and you want to bring people in to try to flip the vote and use it on you, that's one thing. I don't think that's what he's doing. Yeah, Sam, we'll get into that. I mean, his social game is just absolute trash right now. It's not good.
A lot to be left with it. Yeah, he's making before. I'm sure we'll get into it again, but I like the strategic moves he's making. But my God, he does not know how to play the social game.
It's so bad. Like I've got every couple of lines in my notes. I've got Memphis social game bad, Memphis social game terrible. Like it just steadily got worse and worse and worse. And I'm just like, at some point, you've got to realize, oh man, like this is not good. Like. My whole alliance wants me to do something, and I don't know if I'm going to do it. But so yeah, so Janelle then goes into the room with Nicole A. after the nominations, and it's basically just kind of like making her feel better, those kinds of things, telling her what she wants to hear, and she throws out a backdoor plan. And who was it that she threw out to backdoor with Nicole A?
So Janelle wanted to get Nicole F backdoored, and basically what she laid out to Memphis was that Cody, Nicole F, Danny, and Tyler are a tight 4-person group, and this was proved accurate as obviously we know that from the edit, and she was able to pick up on that when they showed that scene of her intruding in the room that they were all in. So Janelle has a really good read on all of this, but the problem is she doesn't realize she's talking to someone that she's aligned with in Memphis. So he's, as we heard in his DR session at that point, he's a little reluctant to pull the trigger on a move like that this early.
Right. And Janelle doesn't realize it, but she's hit the nail on the head with it. Like she's isolated that alliance. without knowing that that's the alliance, and then told the HOH basically, hey, I want you to put your alliance up instead of us. She doesn't know that's what she's done, but that's kind of the premise of this whole episode. Everything in this episode kind of revolves around that conversation.
Right. And I think Memphis handled that situation perfectly, where he didn't show any of his cards. He just kind of took it in like, okay, like I'll consider it, but I don't know if I'm going to go that route. So for the one time and as a couple episodes, Memphis actually did a good job with his social game in that scenario.
Right. That's probably the only time. So,
right.
I'm just looking at this Cam K. I mean, you said it exactly like we said it. He could have definitely probably handled it better. He could have been more tactful in what he said. But what he said doesn't make it, how he said it doesn't make it less true. It's still true. And it's just the players, they are a little bit softer than they were back in the day. I mean, if you guys want to see some raw gameplay and just absolute emotion, go watch Big Brother 10. And that also happens to be the season that Memphis is from, where when you had something on your mind or you felt a certain way, you told people. You didn't hide behind anybody. When you nominated somebody, you told them exactly why you nominated them. You didn't sugarcoat it or tell them anything other than the truth. It created fireworks. It created a great season, and those people are still friends. But in the game, he came from a time where it was different.
And I think that has to do also with a little bit of casting, because the earlier seasons in the old school era were, I'm not going to call them more mature people, but more people that realize that this is just a game, and they, to put it bluntly, I guess, like they had things going on for them outside of the game. Whereas a lot of people in this newer era of Big Brother, they're finding people and casting people who, are like, everyone is open about like quitting their jobs. Like, I quit my job to get on this show. Like, I really need the money for this. And the casting has trended to be a bit more younger. I mean, Big Brother 10 is a perfect example of like the age balance where you had 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, all the way up to Jerry as a 75-year-old. Whereas now it's just a token cast besides this one where it's just a bunch of 20-year-olds and like 140 to 50-year-olds. So as the seasons have progressed, people are definitely getting more sensitive, and that just goes back to casting. But different strokes for different folks, I guess. It's just different eras, and that's led to a lot more bitter juries in recent seasons.
There was a scene in Big Brother 10 where Libra, I believe her name was Libra, was nominated. And old man Jerry, who's the oldest, he's supposed to be this old gentleman war veteran guy, is pointing his finger, yelling, "You're going home!" After
one of my favorite scenes. Yeah,
like if you guys don't know what we're talking about, go check it out. That's way worse than what Memphis did to David. It's just the new school era. People are a lot more sensitive in the game, and I don't think it's good for the game personally. I think they need to, just take it better.
Hopefully this season will mark like a new era where they go back to casting more older people.
Because I think the views on this season are gonna be so much higher than they normally would have been.
Absolutely.
Not only because it's an all-star season, but also because there's nothing else coming on. There's nothing else airing. No new things are airing right now.
Right.
So they're gonna see this cast and realize that maybe this is the balance we need. The young cast, the middle-aged cast, the older cast, put them together, and then you have a true cast.
For sure.
So then as soon as Janelle gets done talking to Nicole about the back door, the first thing she does is she goes right back. She goes to Memphis and starts talking to Memphis because they feel like they have that good relationship in there. And Memphis goes ahead and he starts explaining how he felt about the nominations and who his true target is. So you want to kind of detail that for us real quick?
Yeah, so basically, as we said, Janelle broaches this idea of a Nicole F. backdoor, and Memphis, he doesn't seem too on board with that, but he hears them out, and he acknowledges that Janelle and Case are good for his game because, they are feeding him with a lot of information. So he hints to this as the episode progresses, and he also talks about in the DR then that he shouldn't get rid of them because they are feeding him this information, so they should stay at least a couple more weeks because they're shields and they're loyal to him to a fault. And he basically just says when it comes to Nicole A. and David, he doesn't really care which one of them goes. And that's just kind of been like his whole mantra during the HOH, like kind of like just playing it as it goes. Like we saw in Sunday's episode, he just keeps saying like, I honestly don't know who I'm going to go with. If you feel unsafe, play in the safety suite competition. So he's just kind of like showing like this laid back mantra. Like, I don't care who goes, like you guys figure it out. So yeah, he's kind of just like keeping keeping a low profile, but just basically leaving it up into the rest of the house's hands as to what's going to happen this week.
Right, and that's, and talking with Janelle, I wouldn't say that's an issue for a social game talking to Janelle because she's not in his like immediate alliance. But this is his main downfall right now is he has this 5-person alliance that so far has controlled the game.
Right.
But he's not choosing to use them. He's choosing to isolate them and de-weaponize them with their safeties in order for himself to be safe next week and not them. And that's a part of a social game that's just failing. Instead of using his alliance to get further, he's just using his alliance as a shield for a week is all he's doing. Because that alliance is going to fall apart, right? Like, there's no way this alliance stays together.
Right. The cracks are already getting set up. And I mean, he's got to realize, like, there's 6 people in that alliance, and there's only one of him after this. I mean, there's only one of him, and he's already starting to alienate everyone else. I mean, sure, I would say Cody's probably still the closest one to him out of everyone in this alliance, but Cody's not going to, risk his whole game for Memphis. He's not going to die in the sword for him. So, like we've been saying, Memphis's social game, he could be in so much better of a position if he was just like, receiving the news or receiving everyone's intel better rather than, as you were saying, just isolating the rest of his alliance, because it seems from them that he's just catering to Janelle and Kesar for his own personal game, as we saw Tyler saying in DR, where he's getting onto the fact that, Memphis is using Janelle and Kesar as shields. So yeah, he's got to do a better job of maintaining a good rapport with the rest of his true alliance rather than just, keeping this good relationship with Janelle and Kesar for the time being.
Right. I thought he was in a good spot when I said it about a week and a half ago. I thought he was playing a good game. He's not in a good spot now because when his alliance flips, they're going to flip on him first. Right. And even the person that he's closest to in his alliance, he's their number 2. He's Cody's number 2. Cody's number 1 is Enzo. Like, I know it doesn't get a lot of airtime right now, but just the way they interact, the way they talk to each other, where they're from, that's his number 1.
For sure.
So Memphis's number 1 is Cody, and he's Cody's number 2, and his alliance is going to flip on him. That's not a good position to be in. And Memphis has to see this. There's no way after this HOH week that he does not see the writing on the wall. His alliance is pressuring him to put one of the 2 other people, Kesar and Janelle, and he's almost fighting it. He's like silently fighting it, right?
Right. And I understand the move. Like, I think it's great that he wants to keep Kesar and Janelle in because, again, they're shields. Like, this whole All-Star season is going to be – a lot of it's going to be based on this idea of keeping shields around. So, when push comes to shove, you can just point someone else and they get rid of them instead of you. But, yeah, he could have just gone along this whole situation so much better. I mean, we're already seeing Nicole F. and Janelle. This is going to reach a boiling point at some point. So, I mean, yeah, he's in a tough position moving forward, and he could have been set up so much more better if he had just managed these personal relationships better than just being so brash towards everyone that tries to approach an idea with him.
He should have just put up, even after Noms, right? Even after Noms, they're upset with him with David, putting him up in the way he talked to him. That aside, when the veto competition happens and he wins the veto, and he has the chance to fix that, and his alliance tells him to put up Janelle or Kesar, who are the 2 biggest targets in the house.
Right.
The 2 biggest. And he's choosing not to do that. And his alliance is aware that they're talking to him, but nobody else. That's a red flag for that alliance. He has to see this, right? He has to.
Right. And this early in the game, as I talked about last episode with Christmas, looking out for herself by saving Ian, it's a little too early to be, looking out for yourself rather than for the alliance as a whole. So yeah, it probably would have been better if he just was able to realize, I probably should have put up one of the Janelle or Kesar. And then, hey, maybe he's able to, rebuild a relationship with the person he uses the veto on. So he kind of botched it this week with, keeping the nominations the same.
No, yeah, I agree. And Cam, again, I agree. It's early in the game, but you can already see. Just let us know who you think those people are that can't make it, won't make the cut. I've got a couple people that I don't think will make the cut that are sitting fresh as a daisy right now. But when the game really kicks in, they're not going to be as good. I don't think Christmas is going to do very well. She's good right now because she's in the alliance. But when that alliance crumbles, she's got to find somebody. She's got to attach up to somebody. But which I don't know who she would attach herself to. But yeah. So then we go on. We have our weekly or somewhat weekly good human moment in the episode. It shows the evolution of the game players as far as their personal lives. You have Enzo, who last time he played, he had a 6-month-old, which I didn't realize that they were only 6 months old. She was only 6 months old when she played. He's been divorced. His kids are they said 10 and 7 now?
10 and 7. Yep.
That's a big difference. He's leaving 2 kids instead of a 6-month-old. They went to Nicole Franzel, who's marrying her 4th or 3rd showmance. She's marrying him. She decided to settle down. The Big Brother dating tour is over for her.
The person she evicted 3 times, by the way.
Right, yeah. And there's a running joke amongst our group about Nicole going to find a man in the Big Brother house now that she's in, even though she's engaged. And she had this line that she said, "I don't care. I'll get pregnant before the wedding." And I'm like, that's not a good look. That's not, you have a reputation. That's not a great one, for finding showmances. Now you're engaged and you're in the house and you're talking about getting pregnant before the wedding. Like we need either more context or just to leave that alone. Don't even bring that up, you know?
And CBS threw her a bone with that personal scene because they probably know all the hate she's gotten since she won in 18. So many people have said like she didn't deserve to win. So they threw her a bone with this great scene. And I mean, to put it lightly, I guess she just kind of Pete Carrolled it at the goal line for sports fans. She didn't need to say that at the end about getting pregnant.
I don't know, but I'll let you take this one as well. But I don't think I hate Christmas. I don't mind Christmas. First off, I don't think she's an all-star. She shouldn't have made it as far as she did. She left the house. She went to a hospital in her original season. You can't leave the house and come back. You just can't do it. And she came back with a broken foot. She couldn't even play. So she made it to 3rd place and couldn't even play.
I liked her. So the premiere, I was impressed because I don't know if you remember that premiere, but they had the night 1 eviction, and the 3 people who were like on the chopping block could have decided if they wanted to do a house vote to decide who stays or do a physical competition. And Christmas decided to do a house vote to see where she stands in the house, and she was able to survive, even though she was way more like intimidating and physically threatening than the 2 other people she was sitting next to, in Cameron and Jillian. So I was really impressed with her being able to maneuver that socially in that first night. But yeah, once she broke her foot, it was really disappointing because then she became one of Paul's minions, and we all know how that song and dance turned out. I don't want to get into it anymore.
But yeah, and Alexandra asked here, does Janelle have a chance to win? I don't think she does have a chance to win. I do think she has a chance to get rather far into the game.
If people are smart, I mean, as I've said, this is a typical Survivor strategy. We saw it used in some seasons with people like Joe Anglim or whatever. They're going to use her as a shield, and the longer she's used as a shield, the longer she's going to make it in the game. But as you said, I don't think she has a chance to win. She could go far, but she's going to have to pull a BB6 or BB7 and just kind of comp beast her way to the end.
I think it depends also on how this alliance breaks. How this alliance fractures is going to tell us a lot about this season. Now, if this alliance stays strong as far as 4 strong and just gets rid of Memphis, then I don't think Janelle really has a chance because that 4 is so strong against Janelle right now.
Right.
But if that alliance just absolutely fractures, and if you got 2 here, 1 here, I can completely see Kaser bringing in 2, 3, or at least a couple of those people into the alliance and with Janelle. And then guess what? That gives them a strong 5 if they just bring in 3 of those people. That's not even including the other people that are playing the game. So I think the way this alliance fractures will answer a lot of our questions for that.
Right. And I mean, Janelle has more ammo than we think because, if people are going on for past seasons, like we saw her with, was it the Sov 6 alliance that she was part of in season 6? Was it?
Yeah,
it was
the Sovereign against the Friendship Alliance.
That's right. She's very loyal to the people she's with, as we saw in Big Brother 6 and, season 7. Obviously in 14, it didn't go too well for her, but she's one of the more loyal players ever, I'd say. And, she has these connections with Kaser. I mean, obviously the whole house knows they're together, which probably isn't the best thing, but it doesn't really matter. And, she has this connection with Ian from playing with him. So she has options. It's just she needs to keep pitching herself as a shield. But I hope the best for her. I mean, it'd be very disappointing if her and or Kesar both go home early.
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of the biggest Janelle fans. I hope she does win. And when I say she doesn't have a chance to win, everybody in the house has a chance to win. It's just her battle is going to be a much more uphill battle because of her reputation in the game is all. So
right.
So back to this season, Memphis tells Cody about Janelle wanting to backdoor Nicole. And this is where the fire is lit, right? So Janelle targets the alliance. She tells Memphis. Now Memphis is telling Cody and is like, hey, man, hey, this is between me and you, man. This is between me and you, which everyone knows the moment you say that, it's done. Like he's
famous last words.
Right. Yeah, it's like that. What's that one thing they always say? Don't look down. What's the first thing you do?
Look down. Basic psychology, right?
Yeah. So Cody wastes no time. He goes and gets the alliance together. He gets Danny, Nicole, him, and Tyler, and he's saying, "Look, man, this is not good. This is terrible. Like she named 4 of our people in a 5-person alliance, and the only person she didn't name was the HOH. Like this, we've got to do something about this. Yeah. So
right, and Cody, I mean, you know, it's annoying. Like I always kind of hate that when. You know, we see that happen all the time in every season. Like, don't tell anyone else. And then that person just goes to tell everyone else. So, you know, that's definitely frustrating sometimes. Like, if Memphis found out about that, that'd be frustrating. But Cody played this really well where he was able to, you know, stay as Memphis's number 1 because we see in that later scene, Memphis, maybe he didn't find out about Cody telling him that. But he's able to get the rest of the alliance rattled up against this whole idea of sending JSAR home or getting them to be seen as targets. And if push comes to shove, he's also seen as Memphis's number 1. So really, he's like the Cody, as weird as it is, I didn't see this coming, but he's like the nucleus of that alliance. He's kind of like holding everyone together. So he's in a good spot in this alliance, and he's kind of slipped under the radar, surprisingly. He has a lot of options moving forward because people are talking about the Nicoles, and like, you know, Memphis's name is definitely going to come up, Janelle, Kesar. But when you think of like Cody, I mean, he's physically imposing, but his name hasn't come up yet, which is impressive for him.
Yeah. I was feeling the same way, kind of not like as far as being surprised with Tyler, because Tyler in his season was calm, cool, collected mostly. There were a couple moments where, you know, he was a little bit tense.
Right.
He looks fired up. When he was talking, when that whole alliance was in the HOH room talking with Memphis, about, hey, this is what we need to do, and Memphis is like being defiant, Tyler looked like he was ready to explode on Memphis. Like he was not getting what he wanted. He was a little bit frustrated. You could see it in his face, and we didn't see a whole lot of that in his season.
And I was going to talk about that too, because returning seasons for any show are really interesting because you see these players like Tyler, who is so used to always being in control in Big Brother 20. I will always argue that he was the best player that season, and it's interesting to see how he's not getting his way so far, or at least in this situation, this All-Star season. So, yeah, I mean, he was definitely really frustrated there. And it's not going to work with a man like Memphis. He's just such an alpha in his real life. So as we see in that later scene with Danny, like if you tell him what to do, he's just not going to take lightly to that because, you know, he doesn't like people telling him what to do in his real life and in the game. So, yeah. There's going to be, you got to approach Memphis and players like that in a different way if you want to kind of get in their head.
Yeah, if they've made up their mind, approaching them and telling them to change their mind is not how you approach that at all. Right. You've got to give ideas without giving the idea. You've got to basically what they have to do is make Memphis think he came up with an idea that you gave him without actually giving it to him. And that's a difficult thing to do. Memphis
is number 1 Big Brother 10, Dan Giesling was the master of this. I mean, there's a flawless scene of him in Big Brother 14, the other season he played in, where he's in the HOH room with Danielle Murphy at the end of the game. And this is where he blindsides Shane. And he's just basically telling Danielle, like, she could have just sat pretty, you know, not used the veto, gotten Ian out of there, and she is literally going to get taken in the final 2 no matter what. But Dan convinces her in this scene, like, you need to mend a bridge with me, and this will be your move, and you're basically guaranteed final 2. And I swear on everything, I'm not going to evict Shane, even though he's getting put on the block in the situation. So to sum it all up, like you were saying, with players like that in situations like that, you just got to convince the player themselves that it was their idea to do that.
Right. So we get to the veto, and they do the draw, which I wish they'd go back to the picking people than the draw. I like when you pick them because there's more gameplay in that, I think.
Right.
But Memphis pulls Ian. Nicole ends up pulling Tyler. So Tyler was adamant that he wanted to play for the veto. He wanted to go out and win the veto. Nicole pulls Tyler, which that would have been something if Nicole pulls Tyler, and if Tyler wins, he pulls off David. That'd be kind of messed up for Nicole, But
right.
And David pulls Nicole F. So basically, what it is, the veto competition is this is a Survivor challenge. That's what this is.
Pretty much, yeah. Just stand in place.
Yeah, you balance the balls as long as you can, and they're acting like this was super difficult. I'm just like, I mean, how heavy is that pad?
That's really what it comes down to. If it was super heavy, I can understand how it hurt your forearms for a while, but I was just sitting there watching it like, this isn't the toughest competition in the world. And it only went like 25 minutes or so, less than a half hour, I think. So
I got it written down. When Ian went out, it was at 16 minutes and 30 seconds.
Okay.
So I would imagine it lasted around that range, about the 25 minutes. Yeah.
This is a good competition, though, especially during this. Like, obviously, with COVID happening, like, Big Brother has to be careful with the competitions they run. So this was definitely a fair competition where I feel like everyone had a chance of winning it. And I feel like you can't say the same for some competitions. So props to BB for doing this comp, even though it was kind of easy.
Right. So in between that, we have, which I thought it was going to be the veto competition. When it said BB All Star Wars, I thought that was the veto competition. I wrote that down. I was like, veto competition, BB All Star Wars. And then it's the punishment that I'd completely forgotten about from Ian that he had to do, being the +1.
Right. Yeah, that was, geez, talk about a punishment. That was cruel. Like, nothing compared to Janelle's. Like, oh, Janelle, you get to wear this costume. And Ian, you have to, recite this Shakespearean play 20 times a day, sometimes at midnight or whatever.
He got off easy.
Right. They went in hard on Ian there, but I'm sure he's happy about being safe.
Cam said he thinks David fell at 27 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. One of the quicker competitions.
So yeah, around that range. He got off easy, or Janelle got off easy. This one was and I wrote down, it's difficult having to do that punishment and waking your housemates up in the middle of the night. And oh my God, can you asking politely? Can you help me? Can you help me? No, I don't want to help you. No, right. I want to sleep.
And Janelle summed it up perfectly in her DR. She's like, "This isn't just a punishment for Ian; it's a punishment for us all," which is perfectly accurate.
Right. So, and she's in a room with Ian too. So,
right.
So anybody who slept in a room with Ian was they had to be ready, because when that goes off, he's not going to go into another room and ask somebody. He's going to ask somebody in that room, Right. So you might as well not even go to sleep. Just stay awake. Just talk, But,
exactly.
So the first out in the veto competition. So basically what they have to do is they have to hold this paddle, and there's one ball sitting on there, and they're on an incline. They're standing on an incline holding a paddle flat, and the ball can't roll off. Very quickly, Nicole A is out. She's out.
Just like that. And I think it was just more nerves, as she said in her DR. She was just nervous because, it's kind of like win or go home in that situation. She doesn't know if her or David is the target, so it's kind of like play to win. And she dropped pretty quickly.
Right. And then soon after, Nicole F drops out. She wasn't in it very long. How heavy is this paddle? Honestly.
Right. And she's just we get the scene of her complaining and whining. Listen, anyone could have whined in that situation, but Nicole has a history of whining a lot in Big Brother, and you get that scene, and off.
If you didn't say it, I was going to. She has a massive history of just whining and complaining about literally everything. Everything. Right. So it could be anything.
Her and Christy are probably up there for the two big whiners. I love them both. I think Nicole, solid winner, very underrated from her season. And, I like Christy last season. I thought she was good television, but they'll probably be the first people to tell you that they whine a lot.
So just remind me who the have-nots are again. They're David, Kaser,
Nicole F.
Nicole F. Okay.
And I think that's it.
Okay, so Cam's asking who's going to be the have-nots next week. I think we know if David is still there. I think we know exactly who one of them is going to be. About it.
Oh, he might even make a show out of it too. He's going to throw Memphis in there, give him a little taste of his own medicine.
And Nicole F.
Janelle, probably.
No, I agree. Yeah, it has to be. Who does Kaser pick?
That's just like a crapshoot. I feel like Kaser, there's going to be strategy with this. I feel like he's just going to pick maybe like a Danny Donato or someone, just like someone out of left field. And this is the interesting thing about these have-nots, as I feel like with the new format for it this season, there's going to be strategy involved, whereas you're not going to pick someone you like to be a have-not, so people's cards are going to get shown. And I think this could have the potential to be interesting, this whole thing is with the have-nots as the season progresses.
They say Christmas is one as well. I don't know who Christmas would pick.
Christmas?
Are we going to get to see her in the next episode? Or on Sunday's episode? Is she going to be there?
Right. Does she have time to make an appearance?
I know. Like, she comes in, she's one of those people this season who she had her episode, right? And then now she's in the room. Like, she's just, when you see a bunch of people talking, she's just in the room. Nobody's really like having that conversation with her.
Right. And we've had a lot of and this is interesting, the editing, because we've had seasons in the past where like they do their best to make sure you hear from at least every house guest once, or at least most of them once. But this season is kind of interesting where every episode has a storyline and they're just focusing in on like 3 to 4 main characters.
Yeah, I haven't heard a lot from Bailey. I haven't heard a lot from Chris, or we haven't heard a lot from Christmas.
Davon was non-existent tonight, except for like one scene. Yeah.
She's been relatively quiet as far as the DRs are concerned. So
Ian had a quiet episode. Well, actually, no. What am I saying? He didn't have a quiet episode, but
yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know. Maybe that's good for him at this point in the game. You know, Danny's having conversations, but she's not having a lot of DRs, so I don't feel like she's having a lot of input on what's going on currently. But so, yeah, you're right. They're focusing in on certain storylines and they're going with it, which I like. I enjoy. We're developing characters that way, you know.
And it's gonna this is all gonna boil over, like I said at the beginning. Like the seeds were planted for a Nicole F and Janelle blow up to happen. Like, I'm sorry, this is gonna happen at some point as long as the two of them are in the house. And the downfall of this alliance, the 6-person alliance, like these things are bound to happen. So this episode, I feel like, could be like a benchmark in how the rest of the season progresses, and it's like kind of like the prequel to the events that happen moving forward.
So one of my questions is, Ian is the next out. He drops. Did he throw it? It looked like he dropped that like he threw it.
He might have, and that just goes back to strategy, like he talked about when he was moving in. Like, I don't want to win many comps early. I just want to play dumb. Obviously, he's not going to play dumb, but I like what he was thinking. Like, there's no need for him to win this. The whole, I hate this term, like blood on my hands or whatever. Like, there's really no need for him to win this. He's safe. Just, can't hurt to throw it there if he did.
Yeah, it just looked like it. I don't know if his forearms or his arms were really hurting, but just the way he dropped it, it didn't look to me like a natural drop where the muscles kind of gave out. It looked to me like he just said, screw it, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And then we have this weird contest between David and Memphis. I don't really know exactly what was happening here. David starts like screaming and yelling, trying to scare Memphis, who's
is weirdly loud too.
15 feet away. Memphis was like 15 feet away, and he thinks giving him the is going to scare him and make him drop his ball. And then Memphis responds with, did he do this in the DR or did he do it in the competition where he says, what are you, an amateur?
If it's in the DR, thankfully.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
if he did that during the competition, like, see you never, Memphis. Like, your social game is one of the worst I've ever seen.
I can't get worse at this point.
Right. Fair point.
But yeah, so he does the and he's like trying to psych him out and whatnot. And then he decides that he wants to take a peek and see what's going on around him. Okay, so this man's game is on the line. He has to win. And he decides, okay, let me just not look at the ball that's keeping me in this game anymore. Let me look at somebody else and see how they're doing. And he does it and loses the ball.
Exactly. And I mean, look, obviously that strategy wasn't going to work of yelling at Memphis. It clearly didn't, but that doesn't require you to take your eye off the ball, whereas literally taking your eye off the ball, that's what costed him the victory or costed him a potential chance at winning. So, yeah, he just kind of got too caught up in the music, I guess, in that situation.
So, and then talk to me about this alliance, man, because we've got Tyler and Memphis are the final two in the veto competition, right? They're supposed to be in a 5-person alliance, but they're trying to beat each other to do something different in the noms that their alliance nominated. This is crazy. This is insane.
Right. We're working together for the sake of working together, but we don't trust each other. It's just such a weird dynamic, and it's going to be so interesting to play out. But, I mean, if that doesn't tell you something right there, like, if they were regular alliance members, like, it's probably still be too early to do this, but you'd expect one of them to like throw it to the other or whatever, like not say I'm throwing it to you, but the fact that they were like trying to beat each other there because they don't
throw it to the HOH. If you're if Memphis is HOH, you're in the alliance, you're working together, and and it's just you and him, and he nominated them. Give him the veto.
Right. No blood on your hands. Exactly.
Right. Why would you want the veto? I mean, I understand that Tyler right now they're not working together. They're in an alliance, but they're not working together. But if they were a cohesive unit, that's how it should have happened. Is just let Memphis have his week, HOH and veto, and then go into next week. And then if one of those stays, wins HOH or somehow gets some sort of a power, then then Memphis is who Memphis can be the person. Why would you want to take some of that heat?
Right. And I feel like the best way to describe the dynamic with these 6 people is that it's not an alliance. It's a temporary agreement where they're going to work together for the rest of this week, but it's looking like they're going to part ways in the next week or so.
How many weeks you got before they just completely implode?
I mean, it honestly depends on who wins HOH, because I feel like if one of them wins the HOH, they're going to try and, just stay the course and maybe keep it together. Maybe target Memphis, but really this episode made it clear there's a core 5, there's the camera, and then there's a 1 with that being Memphis. So he's got an uphill battle regardless.
Yeah.
But if someone like out of left field, like, I don't know, like a Davon or a Bailey were to win, someone that's not in that alliance, they're all going to sell each other out, and we're going to see the cracks start to form then. So
I saw a screen cap where Bailey and Davon and Kaser and Janelle are talking. So, I mean, I give it maybe 2 weeks, maybe next week. If Janelle, okay, for sure, if Janelle wins HOH.
Oh, they're all going to be hands and knees, like throwing each other under the bus. And that's probably not going to help much because Jazar has their sights set on one of them. But the alliance is getting ready to implode for sure.
I think the most interesting would be Enzo. I think that would be the most interesting on what he does,
right? Because he's just playing the middle right now. He's good with everyone. He's just trying to make everyone laugh. And
And we're kind of talking into the future rather than this episode. We'll get back to this episode, but I'm just interested in how long this alliance is going to last, because we know that it's not going to last long. It's one of those ticking time bombs that we know is going to fall apart. It's just a matter of if it comes from outside or within. That's all that we're trying to figure out right now. Is it going to be a Janelle HOH, or is it going to be a Danny HOH that just absolutely destroys everything in this alliance? So. And we missed one of the most important parts of that veto is when Memphis asks to be punched.
Oh yeah.
So he's already got this terrible social game, and now he's asking the house guests to come punch him. I'm shocked Tyler didn't just drop and go punch him. Like I'm shocked.
Right. Like that was just maybe that's his way to secure some laughs in the house or whatever, or maybe that bug was just genuinely irritating the heck out of him, but that's just a weird little moment, and it's just such a weird thing to say. I don't know. Just Memphis' social game, it's plummeting a lot. I would not buy stock in that for sure.
Right, yeah. So we go to after the veto, and then we have Nicole Franzel is frantic about what's going on, and you want to handle that conversation. She's talking about being backdoored.
It's just a constant theme in all her seasons as well. We talked about the lying, but she just gets so paranoid for no reason. And this hasn't led to her downfall yet, but like she just thinks for some reason Memphis is going to backdoor her. And she's like, I don't trust Memphis. You know, she goes on to say he's like a weird alliance member. So like she feels like Memphis has it out to get her. Maybe this has to do with the whole like Janelle storyline where obviously her and Janelle are arch enemies in the house. So maybe that was feeding into some of her paranoia. But for whatever reason, she's just like not even trusting her alliance members. And Christmas does a great job of calming her down there. But
who?
Christmas.
Oh, she's still playing. Yeah. Christmas. Who's there?
There we
go. And then we go to, like, we've already discussed this a little bit before, but the Memphis Danny conversation where Danny's basically like, hey, this is what we should do. This would be the fourth member of a 5-person alliance who has asked him to put up Janelle or Kaser, either one, instead of David or Nicole going home. And he does not budge. He steadfast says, I don't know what I'm going to do, and just ignores his alliance again.
And this should have been a red flag in Memphis's mind that this was happening and that everyone's pushing for this to happen because, you know, as we've been saying, it really would have just helped his game if he just put one of them on the block because, you know, Janelle and Kaser don't have as much agency as he thinks to the whole house. So, you know, putting one of them up, it's like, all right, we're getting a target out of here. But anyways, like, that was such a terrible pitch on the other hand by Danny, like basically forcing him, like telling him the HOH what to do. She's like, and she even says like, why are you talking to me like this? Like she thought she was like, he was talking to him in a condescending manner. And she's like saying, we have the numbers. She doesn't, she's the queen for a reason. She's played this game 4 times. Like she's not like suggesting for him what to do. She's basically trying to tell him what to do. And as we said, Memphis, who's a restaurateur alpha from downtown Fort Lauderdale, Florida, he's not going to take kindly from people who tell him what to do. So that was a terrible pitch by Danny, but Memphis probably should have pulled the trigger on that.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't think either if I was going into that game that I had an alliance with somebody that I would need to have that conversation with them. So I can see the frustration Danny has. Like, you're trying to talk some sense into this guy and be like, come on, do what's right for the alliance. And now you're not listening to me and you're basically telling me I'm dumb. Like, I can see the frustration. And when she says, why are you talking to me like that? Like, I understood that when it happened. I'm like, I totally understand and feel what's happening, but both of you guys are responding in the absolute worst way that you can right now. Because this is a seed. This is an absolute seed for a couple weeks down the line when Danny can go back and say, you didn't do this for me. I'm not doing this for you. And then Memphis can just look at it and be like, no, you tried to boss me around once. You're not going to boss me around twice. Like, that's, you know, so it's just not a good thing for either of them.
Well, and the hilarious thing, too, is I guarantee Memphis is going to try and pull the same antics that Danny just pulled on the next week's HOH. He's going to try and tell them what to do when he realizes how hypocritical that is.
And he's going to use his safety that he made them use the week before to protect
right.
himself. Like, it's just not – it's not going to be a good week for Memphis next week. Like, I'm sure he'll stay. I don't really think he's going to go home, but it's not going to be a fun week for him, no matter who wins.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, could be seeing the block next week, maybe an 8, maybe a have not. I mean, you know, what started off really promising has kind of been a bad HOH, even though he's, as I've been reiterating these last couple episodes, love the nominations, terrible execution from Memphis.
Oh, yeah. He's right. Cam's right again. He doesn't want to get blood on his hands, but he's inadvertently getting blood on his hands from people that aren't even leaving the house. They're like scarred from him being HOH in their alliance and not doing what's right for the alliance. But
right.
So we get to the veto ceremony. No real surprise. We already knew throughout basically the whole episode he's not going to use the veto. He's going to leave the noms the same.
I wish they wouldn't edit out the veto speeches that Nicole A. and David give because I understand time constraints, but I don't know. I was kind of interested to see what they were going to say to Memphis in that situation, even though we all knew it was going to happen.
Okay with it. I'm okay with it because when has a veto like the speech ever changed somebody using the veto? I don't think it's ever done it. Not that I can think of.
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, like BB19, Josh. I mean, he made a speech, but it was just really like going after Jody. But it definitely didn't change the fact of the nomination. So you're right with that. Like. It's similar like jury questions. Like the jury questions don't change anything. They already know who they're voting for.
Yeah. So just back to what I was saying in the beginning of the video is this reminds me of the original All Stars when you had two people who came into the house and Dr. Will and Boogie who should have been the first two out the door.
Right.
They let them hang around. They let them just do their thing and not bother anybody, not be nominated, not win anything, and 4 weeks in, they have control of the entire house. Everybody wants to be in Chilltown. They all want to come talk and see what Will and Boogie are doing, what the game plan is. I can see this happening with Janelle and Kaser because you have this big alliance, just like you did in All-Stars, the original All-Stars, Season 6 alliance. It's funny because Janelle's on the other end of it now, but
right.
But you have this big alliance of 5 or 6 that are about to just implode and crumble from within, and you have these two just strategic players, powerhouses, are just waiting for it to happen, and they're going to collect up the scraps and make a deep run. And it's the same thing that happened in All Stars, the original All Stars. Boogie and Will, they bided their time, they hung out for a minute, and then they started creating these bonds with people, these emotional, hey, I have nobody else, you're my guy. Vote them out. Hey, you're my person. Nobody else can take your place. You're an official Chilltown member. Vote them out. They give out cool kid club cards and then vote them out.
Exactly. Yeah,
and I see it going down that pathway with these two. If they don't get rid of them in this week or the next week, Janelle and Kaser are going to have so much power in this game.
And the famous quote from Dr. Will in All Stars is like, "My target is so big that it's almost invincible at this point, or invisible."
Yeah.
And I feel like we could see that happen with Janelle and Kaser, where if they are able to, survive for another week or two, they're going to hold all the power. I mean, they're not to get into live feeds too much, but they're planting seeds in people's heads in the live feed saying like, let's work together. Like these people, what do they offer you? Like, look at us, we can be shields or whatever. They have excellent people skills. And if they can get their foot in the door just a little bit more, there's no saying, honestly, to what they can do for the rest of this game, in my opinion.
Right.
I don't think they're going to win, but like we've been saying, they have the potential to make it far.
Yeah. So who do you think goes home?
It's tough because a lot of the times you see like the edit kind of leaning towards someone, but I genuinely feel like the house is just still kind of up until this point deciding on who to send home. But I don't know. I mean, it's tough. I mean, with David, like I've been saying, it's just so easy to boot him because,
I think Nicole goes home.
You think Nicole?
Yeah, and keep in mind, guys, I'll remind you every time I don't watch the feeds for this season because I want to give you guys honest opinions, and I don't want to just see what happens and tell you I think that's what's going to happen. I think Nicole is going to go home. The reason I think that is because the alliance, the Memphis alliance, does not wanted David to be pulled off. That's what they wanted to be pulled off and somebody put back on. I think they protect David, and they realize that Nicole has talked with Janelle. Janelle was consoling Nicole. Nicole has a great social game, so why not just get rid of somebody that has a great social game that's talking to Janelle and keep David, who you can bring in. Tyler's already close with David. That's a strong bond. I think when it comes down to it, Nicole's going to go home.
I definitely agree with that now. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense because it's like they keep David, and that's just a way to get at Memphis, and not necessarily like say like, haha, screw you, like I hated your HOH, I'm gonna keep David, but keeping David keeps a number for them, whereas Nicole A was never really close with anyone in that core alliance, so it doesn't serve them any benefit to keep her. Rather, because as you were saying, she's more closer to Janelle and Kaser than she is to them. So from what we've been seeing.
Or they could just bow down to HOH and get rid of David, which at this point, why would they do that? It'd be another,
It's smart to keep this, like we talk about these storylines, like obviously Janelle and Nicole F are bound to blow up on each other at some point. There's just so much awkward tension. Like without going into Survivor too much, Survivor Ghost Island, Chris versus Dom, there was just so much awkward tension that season, then finally boiled over at the merge. That's probably what's going to happen here, something similar to that. So the longer you keep these two people in the game who hate each other, the better it is for you, because you can just point at them and plant the seeds to get them to come after each other rather than to point their guns at you.
Right.
So
well, guys, that's I'm sorry. Do you have anything else to add there?
Oh, no, I was just going to say, like, that's probably what they're thinking. Like, we keep David and Memphis. They're only going to have eyes for each other. Or not like they're just – that storyline's going to proceed over a lot of other things in the house and could have them flying under the radar there.
He's going to slide all the way. He's going to slide all the way there.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so that's our recap, guys. Just a couple housekeeping duties we've got. We have a couple of things going on. First and foremost, we are on every Sunday and Wednesday night doing the vetoes and the nomination ceremonies. Russell does his own video, Surviving Big Brother, on Thursdays. He does the evictions. They're supposed to be live evictions, but they're not doing live evictions this year. However, he still recaps it, and he will have a former Big Brother house guest on every Thursday. Last week was Cliff Hogg. This week, do you know who it is, David?
I think I do, but I'll let you say it.
All right. We have Rachel Riley is coming in. Yeah, Rachel Riley will be on there tomorrow, Surviving Big Brother. As soon as the episode ends, they're coming live. They're coming on the channel. We do also have a separate thing that we're doing for another page, a fantasy football league that we're doing. It's the patron, the fourth annual Russell Hantz Show Patron League. The winner of the league gets a trophy sent to them. So we're sending out a trophy with your name on it if you win. If you don't, it was nice playing with you. But we're doing that. In order to play, you guys need to subscribe to the channel, TRHS, TRHS Sports. Become a member of the page and a patron. We have all different kinds of levels for being a patron. You get, as soon as you sign up, Russell Hantz contacts you directly and thanks you. We are both members of that page as well. And lastly, if you guys want to help in any capacity with things like Survivor, Big Brother, you want to get your opinion out there, like me and David do here as well. Contact us, message us, comment on the video below. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. Just let us know, reach out to us, send us a sample video of what you think you'd be talking about, a little bit about yourself. And you never know, we may choose you to come on and be one of our fellow podcasters and talking about the shows, Survivor, Big Brother. We do a lot of online org games. We got one that just started that we're going to, I believe, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I believe we're going to put that out for everybody to see as well, episodes. But yeah, guys, come join the page. Have a good time. It's a pretty close-knit family over here. But yeah, Russell will be on tomorrow with Rachel Riley, and then we will be back on Sunday. So we'll see you guys then, okay?
Sounds good.